Good morning everybody and welcome back to the first full week here at Polesworth. Another new normal is that assemblies are now going to be delivered virtually, so that's something else for you to get used to. I have to say from my own perspective, it has been so lovely to have students back on site here at Polesworth, and it is lovely to see you all and to be able to talk to you face to face and to be able to hear what you've gone through during lockdown, and just to have you all back into some sort of routine and some level of normality. We know it's not completely normal. We know there are things that you are still getting used to. We know that that's going to take a little bit of time, but just bear with us. And things for us might change, because up until now, obviously, we were doing assemblies. So this is sort of a step change as we go through time. In years to come, everybody, this is going to be a part of history. So this is actually going to be studied as part of the national curriculum, I'll guess. If I was a betting woman, I would say it's going to be part of the national curriculum. The decisions that have been made, both good and bad, the fundraising heroes that have been out there, the kindness that has been shown from people just going out of their way to make sure other people, more vulnerable people, are okay, the lives lost in circumstances where loved ones haven't been able to be with the person that they've lost, which is absolutely harrowing, and lives changed fundamentally, because from my perspective, I don't necessarily believe that we are going to go back to what we were before anytime soon. So this really is a time to reflect, and being back at school is a massive step, and we are delighted to have you back, we really are. But how are you feeling about everything? How was lockdown for you? You are all going to have had individual, personal experiences, and they'll all be completely different. You know, from the very bog standard, maybe your routine completely changed and you stayed in bed a lot later. Maybe you maintained your school times of getting up in the morning to get work done, and so on and so forth. Some of you did all of the work set and more, and communicated on a daily basis with your teachers. Some of you did some of the work, but not necessarily all of it. I can tell you that from the experience of a parent of a Year 8 student who didn't do all of his work either, but got into trouble for that. And some of you won't have engaged in any of the work that was online during lockdown. Some of you might have been going to bed a lot later and getting up a lot later. Some of you might have been working your way through numerous box sets that were on Netflix or Amazon Prime or anything like that. Some of you will have been doing more practical things. Certainly in my house, our youngest was doing a lot more cooking and building and just playing in the garden more than anything else, actually, just to keep him busy and engaged. Some of you might have taken it upon yourselves to do projects or to decorate or to help out at home. You know, at this point in time, it might be that you're no longer having virtual family get-togethers. I know from my own experience, every Saturday night at 7 o'clock, my little boy's football team met together for a football quiz. It only lasted half an hour, but it meant that they saw each other every single week because they couldn't train with each other. And he absolutely loved that time. You might have done quizzes with friends, you might have FaceTimed, you might have used Zoom, you might have used all of these things. But what it did bring out of human nature was a unity and a kindness that came from within, making sure everybody was okay. But there was also sadness. There's also sadness about having lost people, about decisions that potentially were made that weren't necessarily the right decisions. When I'm talking about that, I'm thinking about things like care homes. But let's not lose the good things that have come out of lockdown. I want us to reflect on what we've gone through. And I also want you to be stronger as a result of having gone through this period in time. And I want you to be able to look out for the people who you are closest to. I have said this to you before. Just take the time to make sure that you are asking each individual, your friends, even if it's not somebody you know, how are you today? Are you okay? And ask twice. Ask twice if that person is okay, because more often than not, what a lot of us do is just kind of go, yeah, I'm fine, thanks. I'm absolutely fine, not a problem. But actually, if somebody takes the time to ask you a second time, you might give a different answer, and it might open up a conversation that is good for everybody involved. I want you to see the return to school as a new beginning. I want you to see it as a new opportunity. I want you to take hold of every single opportunity that is afforded to you. Because if there's one thing that this pandemic has brought to light, it's that you can't take anything for granted. And you need to be able to make the right decisions on a daily basis because it's the right thing to do. You will all by now be getting used to our 3 rules of ready, responsible, respectful. You will be getting used to the new ways of working with teachers moving around more to come to you. You will be getting used to staggered lunches, staggered break times, designated areas where you have to go to. And I can't tell you how long that is going to be in place for. That could be in place for the entirety of this academic year and beyond. I have no idea. But if we're going to make this work, we have to work together. And actually what I wanted to do was to read a poem that actually went viral during the pandemic, and it was written just by a mum. She's not a writer, she's not a published poet, she is just a mum who decided to put her thoughts down into poetry. So I want to finish this kind of virtual assembly with that poem, and some of you might have already encountered it. And it's called The Rainbow Children by Gemma Peacock. The rainbow because obviously that's what we put in our windows. The history books will talk of now that time the world stood still, when every family stayed at home and waved out from their window sills at those they loved but could not hold because they loved them so. Yet once they did, they noticed all the flowers start to grow. The sun came out, they can recall, and windows rainbows filled. They kicked a football in their yards until the night drew in. They walked each day, but not too close. That time the world stood still. When people walked straight down the roads that once the cars did fill. They saw that people became ill. They knew the world was scared. But whilst the world stood still, they saw how much the whole world cared. They clapped on Thursdays from their doors. They cheered for the brave, for people who would risk their lives so others could be saved. The schools closed down, they missed their friends, they missed their teachers too. Their mums and dads helped with their work, they helped their minds to grow. The parents used to worry that, as schools were put on hold, their children wouldn't have the tools they'd need as they grew old. But history books will talk of them, now adults, fully grown, those little boys and girls back then, the ones who stayed at home. They'll tell you that they fixed the world of all they would fulfill. The rainbow children building dreams. They dreamed whilst time stood still. Thank you very much for your attention today, folks, and I look forward to seeing you all around school, and it is really lovely to have you back in school. Look after yourselves, please, and each other. Thank you.